Mel Kiper dropped a new mock draft, so we're going to see who had the Broncos taking at pick number 12. And then there's a laughable trade idea that was pushed across my desk that I'm going to react to along with you guys. But really quickly, I want to update you on our like battle with the Chiefs report from just 2 days ago, where we absolutely curb stomped them. But now I need your help to take them down in subscribers for the month of April, where they have a sizable lead. But we still have about 2/3 of the month left. So chipping away, baby. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet and you hate the Kansas City Chiefs, you're in the right spot. Welcome on into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. First up on today's show, we're going to break down Mel Kiper's new 2-round mock draft. Now, unfortunately for Denver, they only have a pick in round number 1, not round number 2. So just one selection to look at in this mock. But let's get right into it, starting with picks 1 through 10. We're no surprise he has Caleb Williams to the Bears, but a surprise to me where he has Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye to the Commanders. Very excited to see what happens at that spot. Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals at 4, and then the Vikings trade up with the Chargers, which is something Denver cannot do because there's no way Jim Harbaugh will trade within the division to allow J.J. McCarthy to face him twice a season. The Giants go Malik Neighbors. The Titans go Joe Alt. Atlanta goes Dallas Turner. The Bears go Roma Dunze at 9. And then Brock Bowers, someone I'm super high on, and I would love to see Denver pick at 12. He goes to the Jets at 10. And then right before the Broncos pick at 12, the Chargers, who traded back with the Vikings, they go offensive tackle, which sets up Denver to make their first pick in the draft, where they go Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. So let's start things off by looking at what Mel Kiper wrote about this selection, and then I'll give you my thoughts. He wrote, I thought hard again about giving the Broncos quarterback Bo Nix, but I talked myself out of it. I just don't think Nix is a first-round signal caller. I have a round 2 grade on him based on everything I've seen on tape. He lit up defenses for the Ducks the past 2 seasons. He had 74 touchdown passes to just 10 picks, but there's some risk involved based on what he was asked to do in the Oregon offense. His average pass traveled 6.3 yards downfield last season, which was 6th shortest among 125 qualified FBS quarterbacks. What have I been saying for months? Do not force a quarterback pick like Bo Nix at pick number 12. I'm not super high on Bo Nix, but I can be wrong. People are wrong all the time in the NFL draft. But I just feel like Denver is more than just a quarterback away, and they should go get the best player available at pick number 12 and not take a quarterback just for the sake of taking a quarterback, when they'll look back at this and go, I can't believe we passed on so many great players because we just wanted to go get a quarterback and didn't want to wait till an appropriate selection to go make that pick. I mean, go back for months at this point, right? Old me, don't force a QB pick at number 12. Slightly older me, much prefer the safer pick at number 12. Not a very good screenshot by me. I am still team best player available at number 12 over need. Hard pass for Bo Nix at 12. I have been preaching this for months on the channel. Just because you need a quarterback doesn't mean you should go out and pick a quarterback at number 12 that you don't think is actually worth the 12th overall pick, right? You got to find some level of balance to drafting for need and drafting for the good players. And you may need a quarterback, but if there's not a good one at pick number 12, then don't just take one because you don't want to risk not having one later on. No. Unfortunately for Denver, they may not find a great solution for quarterback this offseason, but what I don't want to see happen to this team is they roll into next offseason, 2025, needing a quarterback and then needing a whole bunch of other stuff because they did not address that in this year's draft. Now, when it comes to Quinyon Mitchell, we spent so much time talking about Bo Nix. Here's what Mel Kiper wrote on him. Instead, Denver can look to improve a defense that ranked 30th in yards per play allowed, 5.8 last season, and pair Mitchell with Pat Surtain. Mitchell, my top-ranked cornerback, had 46 pass breakups in 4 seasons at Toledo, and he ripped off an elite 4.33 second 40-yard dash at the Combine. He's ready to play early and often as a rookie. I like Quinyon Mitchell a lot as a prospect. You can look at his profile here. from a physical makeup standpoint, elite speed, like Kiper pointed out. Also, really good size, 6 foot, 195 pounds. So when you see guys with that type of size also play on the inside at the nickel corner position, they're going to be asked early and often to tackle NFL wide receivers and tight ends. And some of the smaller guys, they just can't do that very well. But Mitchell, he can play the inside, which is going to be very useful for any defensive coordinator because they need to trust their DBs to make tackles in the open, which is something Mitchell is capable of doing. But he can also play an outside corner role. Now, that versatility has come in play for him when you look at his stats over the last 2023 season. 41 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 18 pass breakups, 1 interception. His 43 pass breakups, by the way, a Toledo program high. Now, before we get on to the rest of this mock draft and just my reaction to it all together, I do want to fill you all in on our sponsor today, which is PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. Now, if you're looking for an example on what this means in layman's terms, no problem. Let me show you guys the selections I am rolling with for tonight's NBA slate. Taking the more on all of these goblins. They also have demons and goblins, I should add. Demons are higher, harder stat projections to reach, but a more lucrative payout. Goblins is a little bit easier to reach, not as big of a payout, but you stack a couple of these bad boys up and you'll be in a good spot. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me by going to prizepicks.com and putting code CLNS in for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Once again, download the PrizePicks app and use that code CLNS. Sing it with me for a $100 deposit match. I put that link in the comments and description as well. Now, getting back to the Jaquan McMillan. Getting back to Quinyon Mitchell, which is where I was going with this. I would be a little surprised if Denver went with Quinyon Mitchell because I think he's got a really good chance of being a nickel corner in the NFL and a really good one as well. Now, you don't see those guys go very early in the draft, but I think you may start to see a shift in NFL draft strategy as teams go with more 11 personnel looks, right? 1 running back, 1 tight end. Teams are being called on to have 3 starting caliber corners. And Jaquan McMillan showed us last year that he is a very capable nickel corner. So if you do take Quinyon Mitchell, I would assume the plan is to put him at CB2, and he can play outside. That's no problem. But I feel like a team that would have no inside corner would be better suited for Mitchell. But for me, I keep going back to the press conference that the Broncos had after Week 18, where George Payton talked about some of the younger players on this team. And when talking about Riley Moss, he said he's a starter in this league. So if you've got Pat Surtain and you've got Jaquan McMillan, 2 guys that are unquestioned starters on this team, and the only question mark is Riley Moss, and the GM is saying he is a starter in this league, are we giving up too early on the former 3rd-round pick? I think so. I'm definitely guilty of it. Didn't see a whole lot from him last year. Some of it his fault, some of it not his fault, right? Unfortunately for him, he missed all training camp and preseason. That's a really tough portion of time to miss as a rookie. But when he had an opportunity to go out there and start when Damari Mathis got benched, for whatever reason, his number was not called. And I think that's got to be some sort of reflection of what he was showing in practice to Sean Payton. So I'm not really sold on Riley Moss, but then again, we saw Nick Bonito after his rookie year not give us a whole lot and then kind of explode on the scene in his sophomore season for 8 sacks last year. So we should probably have a little bit of a longer leash with Riley Moss. I think it should be long enough where Denver probably won't go cornerback in round number 1, even though I really like Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell. I think both those guys are Pro Bowl caliber players. I'm not saying they're going to be perennial Pro Bowlers like year in and year out like Patrick Surtain is, but I think if they started 8 seasons in Denver, they could make 2, maybe 3 Pro Bowls, and that would be a really good pick for the Broncos at pick number 12. And I see that in Terrion Arnold, but I think Denver may be comfortable, or I think inside of the Broncos brass, they're much more comfortable with Riley Moss than all of us are on Twitter and YouTube, which is why I don't actually suspect they go corner at pick number 12, and they probably go address a different need or try and trade back to get more picks for round number 2. But if it is Quinyon Mitchell at pick number 12, how would you grade that selection? A, B, C, D, or F? I'd give it a B+. I think Quinyon Mitchell is a really good football player. I'm not opposed to drafting a corner. I do have Terrion Arnold higher, so if I had to pick a corner, I would go Terrion Arnold. I think him and Patrick Surtain would create an elite cornerback duo, and sure, you don't win football games by having great corners. You win football games with great quarterbacks more often. But if there's not a great quarterback to make at pick number 12, I'll take the next best thing, which would be an elite secondary. Now, let's talk about the dumbest trade ever. And it's not dumb because of what the trade compensation is for our guy Patrick Surtain. That's not why this Matt Lombardo trade idea is laughable, ridiculous, and asinine. Because what this trade idea represents, or what it entails, I should say, a first this year, a third, and a future first, like that right there is a good offer, right? 2 firsts and a third. 2 firsts and a third for any player in the league is not going to be a laugh out the door type of trade, right? That's definitely a starting point for 99% of players, I would say, in the NFL. But the reason why I think it's laughable is you get the 18th pick in this year's draft, and then you got to assume the Bengals next year are going to be no worse than they were this year. So we're looking at pick 18 and like pick 25, 26, 27. Those are the money picks, right? And you're going to use one of those first-round picks on a cornerback to replace Patrick Surtain, and I am telling you now, Denver will fail at replacing Patrick Surtain with one of those 2 picks. They're not going to find a player even 90% of his level at either spot. And so if that's okay with you, then the argument really becomes, well, are you going to get another impact player from round 1 and round 3 that combined outweigh what Patrick Surtain brings to the table? And I don't think you will. I don't think you will. I would rather have Patrick Surtain than pick 18 and 26. And I think you would too if you knew the number assigned to the 2025 first-round pick. Well, whenever we get future firsts involved, everyone's brains always start to assume the best. And they're like, whoa, that could be a top 5 pick. But it's not. The Bengals are not going to be that bad next year. They're going to get Joe Burrow back healthy. They're going to be better than they were this year, most likely. So, if you knew the pick assigned to that first rounder next year, would you rather have Patrick Surtain or whoever gets picked at 18 this year and picked at 25 next year? I mean, let me just pull it up on the... Here, put me full screen for a moment, okay? I'm just going to spitball here. I'm going to look at the 2023 NFL draft, okay? This, I think, is really going to drive this point home. Would you rather have Patrick Surtain or who was picked at 18 last year? Jack Campbell, the Iowa linebacker, or, and we'll go back the year prior, the 26th overall pick, we'll say, or Jermaine Johnson? Would you rather have Patrick Surtain or Jack Campbell and Jermaine Johnson on your team? I'm taking Patrick Surtain every single day of the week. Let's go back a year prior, okay? Would you rather have Patrick Surtain or the 18th overall pick, Jalen Phillips? He's pretty good, actually. Or, Jordan Love. Whoa, might dug myself a bit of a hole, but I'm still taking Patrick Surtain. I'm taking PS2. Now, there's one other part of this trade idea from Matt Lombardo that just doesn't make sense. He says, acquiring Surtain would give the Bengals a proven playmaker at cornerback, a worthy counterpunch to some of the elite receivers in the AFC, and dealing him away in a trade designated as a post-June 1 transaction would provide some direly needed cap relief for the Broncos. Matt, I don't know if you saw the news. The Broncos don't need cap relief. And that direly created space is $3 million. Denver has $17+ million in cap space right now. After moving on from Jerry Jeudy and Justin Simmons, they went from salary cap hell to $17 million in the green, and they are towards the top of the NFL in NFL salary cap space. So if even a fraction of your reasoning for trading Patrick Surtain is to clear $3 million in cap space, is this like the 2001 Oakland Athletics? Or I guess even the 2024 Oakland Athletics? That's just the dumbest reasoning for trading Patrick Surtain. So you can get $3 million in cap space, bring your cap space up to $20 million. To do what? Who are you signing? All the good players are gone. This just, that part really makes no sense. So we'll go back to it. Would you do this trade, yes or no? I'm typing N for no 1,000,000 times. Just do not see a way, if this trade ever happens, Broncos country looks back at it and goes, this team was better after this trade. Nope, I do not buy that. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will sign off, and we will see you all later.